In the dead of night, a peculiar email caught my eye. It was an oddity, a digital whisper from a realm shrouded in shadows, an invitation, if you will, to a seemingly harmless online quiz. But this was no ordinary invitation. It bore the unmistakable signature of the dark web. The mysterious email promised a reward so grand it teetered on the brink of absurdity, $1 million prize for answering a few simple questions. It read like a cruel jest, a joke played by an unseen jester in the dark corners of the internet. Yet, there was an unsettling allure to it, a siren's call that was impossible to ignore. The air around me seemed to grow colder as I pondered over the invitation. The promise of easy money, the thrill of the unknown, the lure of the dark web. It was a potent cocktail. Driven by curiosity and the allure of easy money, I decided to take the plunge into the unknown. As I clicked on the link, I was thrust into a world I never knew existed. A realm where the shadows of the internet came alive, where digital phantoms whispered secrets in lines of code. The quiz had begun. The first question popped up on the screen, innocuous enough. It asked for my favorite color. I clicked on blue. The next query, however, sent a chill down my spine. It was about the name of my childhood pet, a detail I had never shared online. My fingers hovered over the keyboard, uncertainty creeping in, but I typed in Baxter. The screen flickered, acknowledging my answer, and moved on to the next question. As the quiz progressed, the inquiries delved deeper. They asked about my first crush, my most cherished memory, my deepest fear. Every question seemed to peel back a layer of my life, exposing my secrets to the cold digital void. It was as if the quiz was a sentient being, probing into my past with an insatiable curiosity. I continued, driven by a morbid fascination and the tantalizing prospect of $1 million. Yet, with each question I felt a growing sense of unease. The queries were no longer just personal, they were intimate, invasive. They asked about the scar on my left hand, the dream I had last Tuesday, the whispered conversation I had with my mother last Christmas. It was like the quiz knew me, knew my life better than I did. The final question of this section, however, was the most chilling. "What is your biggest regret?" it asked. My heart pounded in my chest as I typed in my answer, a secret I had buried deep within my conscience, a secret I had hoped to never confront again. As I hit enter, the screen went dark for a moment, then lit up with the message, "Your answers have been recorded, proceed to the next stage." The sense of dread was palpable now, thick as fog. It was clear that this was no ordinary quiz. With every question, I felt an invisible presence looming over me, as if I was being watched. The darkness of the web had indeed cast its gaze upon me, and I was left to wonder, what did it see? Halfway through the quiz, I stumbled upon a question that made my blood run cold. It was a question that seemed so innocuous at first glance, but a second look revealed an unsettling depth. It was a question about my past, a detail so obscure and personal it was impossible to ignore. The question asked about the name of my childhood pet, a scruffy little terrier named Rex. How could they possibly know about Rex? I hadn't mentioned him in years, not since he passed away when I was just a teenager. A shiver ran down my spine as the words on the screen seemed to leer at me, knowing, intrusive. I had entered this quiz on a whim, seduced by the lure of $1 million. It was supposed to be fun, a harmless diversion on the shadowy corners of the web, but now, it felt like a trap. Like I was a mouse who had willingly walked into the jaws of a hungry cat. The quiz had seemed so straightforward at first. Questions about general knowledge, pop culture, a few brain teasers. But as I progressed, the questions became increasingly personal. They asked about my hometown, my high school, the first car I ever owned. I shrugged it off, assuming it was part of the game, a way to make it more challenging. But the question about Rex? That was different. That was invasive. It was as if the quiz had reached out from the screen and wrapped its cold digital fingers around my heart. I felt an icy dread settle in my gut. The quiz wasn't just a quiz, it was more than that. It was a tool, a means to an end, and I, the naive participant, had willingly given it all the information it had asked for. Fear washed over me as I realized the depth of what I'd gotten myself into. I had bitten the bait, and now I was hooked, tangled in a web that was far darker and sinister than I ever could have imagined. As I neared the end of the quiz, I could feel a chill creeping up my spine. The questions were no longer about trivial things like my favorite color or the name of my first pet. Instead, they'd taken a disturbing turn. It was as if the quiz was testing my courage, not my knowledge. It was probing into my deepest fears, pushing me to the edge of my sanity. The first of these sinister questions asked me to imagine being trapped in a room with no doors or windows. How would I escape? The options were gruesome, each one more horrifying than the last. I could feel my heart pounding in my chest as I selected the least terrifying choice. The next question was equally disturbing. It asked about my worst nightmare. And, again, the options were terrifyingly detailed. The quiz was no longer a game. It was a psychological torture designed to instill fear and panic. I could feel my palms sweating, the room spinning around me. As I moved further into the quiz, the questions became more personal, more intrusive. They seemed to know my deepest secrets, my darkest fears. It was as if the quiz was alive, watching me, stalking me. I could feel its cold, menacing presence just beyond the glow of my computer screen. The penultimate question was the most terrifying of all. It showed a picture of my own house, taken from outside my window with the question, "Are you home alone?" I was frozen in terror. How did they know where I lived? I felt a chill run down my spine as I realized the danger I was in. And then the final question appeared on the screen. Do you think you can escape? The room seemed to close in around me. I could hear my own heartbeat echoing in my ears. I was trapped, a prisoner in my own home, a pawn in a sinister game on the dark web. I stared at the screen, the question burning into my mind. Could I escape? Would I escape? Or was this the end?